Good morning, everybody. This is a very important starting for Business World Legal. And I'm very fortunate that this is the first panel and we have a few of the disruptors in the legal fraternity who are here in this panel with me. Uh, Pratibha Jain is with Nishit Desai. Anand was the Anand used to be, but he remains the founder of Trilegal. And Tarun, of course, is one of the most promising young person who has taken legal programs on TV to a very new high. That's the way I look at him. Um, I run a very modest firm which primarily works on infrastructure, environmental law. Uh, Important thing is that what do we mean by this 5 trillion economy dream which the Prime Minister Modi has, and as a service industry, what is the contribution we are looking at? So you will be surprised even if we don't pay GST, as Justice Kurian said, still we have an onerous task of contributing around, service industry is going to contribute around 65% out of this 5 trillion economy. So that's the first number for you. That 65% has to come from the service industry. In the service industry, the legal sector has a very, very small denomination as of now. As per the Economic Times and the RSG consulting report, which was there 2 weeks back, we are looking at a 3 billion USD Indian legal market. I think Lalit sir will confirm to this kind of figure, which is very, very less. If you see this, it's a very, very less. It's not a very magic figure, not a very attractive figure. And the entire strength of the legal fraternity to boot charge or kickstart the service industry to a new high, huge potential is there. Because we have very few firms which are contributing to that kind of number. We have very few magic circle firm in terms of the global legal positioning. And if you see the Indian economy, which despite whatever turbulence it has, it is still growing by 5% or 4.5%. We have a virtually nil inflation in the last 6 years. That's what they keep on talking about. So coupled with that, if you see, then the potential is huge. And I will like to start asking first from Tarun only, because Tarun will set it up nicely for us. Then what do you think the kind of disruption legal community needs to do to contribute more on the service industry? And what do you think the government needs to do more to encourage the legal fraternity to contribute more? We have a lot of odds against us.
Well, when I think of, thank you, Steve, first, but when I first think of India, we are talking of an economy which is about $2.8 trillion, and we are on our way, whenever that happens, to be a $5 trillion economy. It doesn't matter whether it takes another 5 or 10 years, but we surely, because of the current demographics, we are going there. The government, for its way, in a way, if we currently, I feel the law firms of India do need a certain amount of protection. We are yet not ready for foreign law firms to come in India. That is the belief that I have, because see, go back to 1991 when we had our first set of reforms. What did happen was our local manufacturers had the scale. They all had a couple of thousand crores of turnover. Of course, not the multiple $1 billion that they do today, but we had the largest scooter manufacturer in Bajaj, which was even then doing close to $1 billion. We had Tata's, which was then about $1.5 billion. So these all were actually big companies. Reliance was big then. And then you saw the entry of foreign companies, big league foreign companies in the Indian market. I feel that the Indian law firms and the Indian service sector first need to reap the benefits of this economy in terms of expanding their footprint in terms of the size of law firms. I mean, why shouldn't we have a homegrown law firm with about 3,000 lawyers working for it? We should have it. We should have that critical mass first. As far as the government is concerned, I would like to say there is a feedback from the government side when I interact with policymakers in the North Block and the South Block. The point they say that enforcement of contracts is one of the biggest problems in India, which is a hindrance to India becoming a $5 trillion economy, because we have had many businessmen from Europe coming into India with a willingness to invest these are not big firms. These firms have the turnover of 1,000 crore, 1,500 crores, or even small size firms of 500, 600 crore, and there are plenty in Europe with they do great cutting edge work. They come to India, but they see when there is a dispute, the litigation goes on endlessly and they can't enforce contracts, and that is a problem. So if the legal system, the legal services industry, along with the judiciary, can deliver on this point, we can surely create a $5 trillion economy, because currently the only thing every CEO who I personally interact with tell me that everything is okay on one side, tell me that the written word on the file will be honored, the enforcement of contracts needs to happen, and if that happens, then you see your growth will come. Sudhir, this is what I wanted to share.
That is very good, but Pratibha, I will ask you something related to this, because as a law firm, Nishit Desai has this reputation that you do a very cutting edge research, and research leads to better contracts, and you get respect for your research, and a lot of technical practice areas also. There is a threshold which has been created by you, which is very difficult to meet for many other law firms. What I understand when we work with small size firms across the globe, especially London and some part of the, I think, West Coast in America, that in India there is a general feeling about Indian legal system is that we are still in the 17th century. We are in the 17th century. Even Bangladesh, few of the law firms, they compare us with Bangladesh law firm, and they say that they have a very good research and very good commitment to the client and those kind of things. What do you think defines the role of quality, research, and regular legal training for having a confidence where all kind of businesses related to law will start looking to India, and the foreign law firms or the general counsels of the multinationals who operate in India or bring lawyers because they don't get that kind of quality will be able to cater to?
Sure. Thanks, Sudhir, and thanks to Business World for arranging such a great conference and inviting me. Our philosophy in terms of legal practice and also lawyers' contribution to the community at large is slightly varied from what you see generally in the market. I think, just hearing Honorable Justice Joseph was very heartening and also slightly depressing when he started. But as a law firm, we are very committed to still being service providers first and ensuring that, our contribution has an impact ultimately. I think to the extent as lawyers, as practitioners of law, we can remember that somewhere, we've lost that. Today, when we talk to kids graduating from colleges, they're looking at placements based on salary packages, titles that they get, and the focus is totally different. Because of our focus on research and really our research papers, some other law firms have come and told us, you guys put out all these research papers. We just take it and convert it into a memo and give it to clients. So, what are you guys doing? But really the idea for us is through that process, you're training lawyers to be better lawyers. Because, the law schools will train you on the basics, but then to get specialized, how do you train them? So we answer that question by making them do at least 30% of their time in doing research and writing. You don't sell information as a lawyer. You put the information out there, and then you provide, legal advice based on that information. So you're raising the bar in the society in terms of what is the service that you should be providing as a lawyer. So it achieves that purpose. And third, it gives us amazing branding. Even when I go to the government, I see some of the secretaries in the government have our research books sitting there, and we get appreciated quite a bit. So as a small firm, we have a big impact by doing that. So there is a business model to it too. It's not just public service. And fourthly, the kind of um, people that the talent we attract is not the one only focus on, you know, what pay package you're getting or what title you're getting. We've actually done away with all titles. None of us are partners, senior associates. We are all just a flat organization now. Because to do away with this mindset of
Very well said, Pratibha. And I'll come back to you on some of the things which you are going to do with the government or doing it already. Anand, with you, it's a very special question because my journey started actually when we saw Try Legal, and my firm's name is Trust Legal. You are in all the listing on the top, and we have also started coming there in RSG. We are there now. But we have almost started at the same time in 99, 2000. Very difficult years actually, because there was no major economy, there was no major service industry happening. Tell me, against all these odds, you managed to come on a first generation lawyering. This is also first generation lawyering. These are the hopeful things for this 5 trillion economy dream, that you had adversity against you and there was no ecosystem. How did you do that? And what will you do now for the 65% bracket which the government is expecting you to do, despite not allowing you to advertise, not allowing you many other things which is open to foreign law firms in other countries?
So I'll have a slightly longish answer to this. But when we started off, I mean, RSG ranked Trilegal as law firm of the decade.
Yes.
But when we started, none of us were quite sure how we would get there. We had an ambition. And the founding partners felt, and none of the founding partners had deep roots in Indian business or in Indian industry. So everything that we had to do had to be built from scratch. And so two basic principles that we used. One is that we need to sort of work collectively as a team and not put as much premium on individual practices and on what somebody does individually, but put more premium on what you can do collectively as a group. So how do you work together? Was one element of it. The other element that we picked on was, and this was a discussion that we had, and I think different speakers will allude to it through the day. It started from the morning, but integrity. And how does integrity work? So there are two ways of looking at integrity. Most of you would say integrity because it's a good thing. We actually thought of integrity as a tool. And when you use it as a tool, you actually, the balance shifts in favor of saying, how do I do lawyering better? Because you know that the world out there lacks integrity. So how do you therefore improve your lawyering capabilities? How do you innovate? How do you do things differently? How do you communicate differently? And that worked very effectively for us. So it's a combination of using integrity as a tool and sort of working more as a group. So we were a firm that did not have a managing partner. So we had no, it still does not have a managing partner. It is run still by committees. So there was inclusiveness in terms of how things work. There was no great premium on the size of any one individual's practice. And they were just generally firm targets as against having individual targets. So those sort of worked. In addition, we had two other things going for us. One, I thought we were fairly decent at what you describe as business development. You can't call it marketing because the Bar Council restricts you from doing it. But how do you put yourself out there? And I think this is an archaic perspective that still exists in our Bar Council regulations to say that you should not advertise or you should not do marketing. Because how do you, as a first generation outfit, either I be born right or I actually have to do something to sell myself to somebody. So to actually impose a restriction on business development or marketing is saying the guys who have got the contacts should be the only guys who continue to prosper. The rest of you have not been born right and therefore should not break through the glass ceiling. So that is an archaic rule that exists in our Bar Council, and it comes from sort of old English times when it was nobility that was primarily meant to practice law. The other is just pure luck. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have luck knocking on your door, and you have to be able to open it at the right time.
Yeah, very well said. Anand, I'll share with you that in my understanding, the biggest challenges which the legal fraternity will face in terms of sizably contributing to this any 5 trillion economy would be first the quality of law students and the quality of their expectations. So in fact, once we started, Pratibha also was ranked as the future leader in RSG, if I remember correctly. So once we got a RSG listing for the first time, 37th rank, so we started getting a lot of applications for this thing. Most of those applications actually are job interviews, where they take our interview now. Even a law student, if he writes to us, he used to write earlier also, how much you will pay me for your internship. Now, whatever we have been taught in 97, 98, when I started practicing going to court, not only that I was bringing, and Pratibha knows it because she has, because we all started almost together. I used to say, यार मैं तो सब्जी भी ला रहा हूँ अपने senior advocate की, और बहुत खुशी से लाता था मैं. I was very happy doing that. And when I was given my first check of 1,000 rupees in 98, my hand was shaking. I got only 1,000 rupees. I never worked under any law firm. I never got any mentoring, any training. We had no Facebook, no WhatsApp, no LinkedIn request, nothing. But let me also tell you, I faced no competition so far. We were an environment infrastructure firm. Today we are the largest media broadcasting firm so far as the TDSAT is concerned. So there was no competition. But the point is, today's generation decides its limitation on day one. We want this. So you're defining yourself. That's your biggest challenge. The second challenge is the government's outlook, 2 steps forward, 4 steps backward. You are not sure you want a foreign law firm or you want some other planet law firm. That's not the challenge you have. Your biggest challenge is that your business is not opening up. You're not opening up legal services, is still not respected. The reason being that a lot of people think that lawyers jo hote hain, wo to bas aise hi hote hain. But what I liked what Anand said, and why this panel is important, Tarun, you can do a show on this, that all of us actually want to sleep whenever we sleep with a lot of integrity. I'm very happy I haven't compromised on anything. I don't know the judge, don't want to know the judge. And I think same is true with Anand, same is true with Pratibha. So, Tarun, you are interviewing everybody and a lot of 3rd generation, 4th generation, 7th generation law firms from across the globe on your show. Tell me, what are big disruptions you're going to see in the legal fraternity?
I think the big growth of the legal profession and law firms in India is yet to happen. So a lot is going to be unleashed in the next 10 years as India grows. Older generation lawyers may be having a lot of complaints about the demands of the younger generation, and I'm generally supportive of the younger generation, currently people who are just passing out. Well, they see it as pure business. As far as I see it, they say I have skills, I bring you the skills, this is the price I want to quote, if you want to pay me well, otherwise I walk out. In fact, he is obeying and wanting, so there is no scheming there. He's putting it out at the table that these are my skill sets.
Tarun, I'll just help you rephrase your thing.
Yeah.
So we used to pay 25 rupees to 200 rupees in Campus Law Center for all education. I am told today that most of the law schools, not the great ones also, charge you 3 to 5 lakhs rupees annually for your law education. Now they take loan. They have a problem. When they come, that's why they ask for internship. Also you pay them something, even in the job they decide. That whole system is faulty. There is a problem there because they come with expectation because they are taught that the moment they come out, Nishid Desai will take them, tri-legal will take them.
I'll give you an example, and because I happen to interact with a few law schools, the kind of expectations that have been built up in the parents who pay hefty fees to get their kids into law school admissions, and you have the parents taking loans, and there is a huge pressure on the kid to perform. You can't blame the kid for asking money on the first day, because I know a lot of people who are my seniors and who have done law. They have paid about 15,000, 12,000 rupees as fees for studying law for the whole year. And here you have been you have been charging millions of rupees in fees now. How? So he will see it as a market because he sees his fees as an investment and he wants return on investment.
So it's the same thing when you go to Russia to do an MBBS degree and you are being told that you come back, 40s will take you. So that's a problem there. The boy has to know, or the girl has to know, that if you go to a particular law school, which charges that kind of money, a lot of those law schools, they don't have the teachers who know anything about the practices, whether it's a corporate law or a litigation law. You need a separate section on that.
No, but that's where the point that Anand meet comes in, that you allow these law firms to advertise, let them put it out there on television, in the magazines, on digital media, that this is what we have delivered, this is what we do, this is the service we'll provide you, and this is what we are quoting. Let it be a free for all. Because currently you have a younger generations with aspirations, and you have the older clutch of people who don't want to let go of their pelf and privilege. And that is why this is continuing. The day those barriers will break down, you will see the younger law firms flourishing like anything else,
I agree
because
with you.
they will deliver on quality, they deliver on price. Currently, there is a premium, there is a huge premium that corporates pay for accessing a certain clique of law firms, which they'll not be able to charge that premium, is what I feel.
I agree.
I may be wrong.
Pratibha, I will ask you something. Tell me, what are the specific changes you want to see in the legal landscape today? What are the specific changes? So far the business atmosphere is concerned, so far as the induction of fresh lawyers are concerned, both the things.
I think the legal profession per se in India is progressing really well. Where we are lagging is, like Tarun mentioned, enforcement of contracts, is a big inhibitor to doing business in India. Or, the whole policy of the government and how regulations are made today. Even advising as a law firm on regulations is very difficult, because the law might say X, but the actual practice by the regulators might be Y. So are you advising on law, or are you advising on the practice of law by the regulator? So I think there are challenges in the economy that the legal industry can help resolve. We've done 2 funds for the Ministry of Finance. The first one, the way we had structured it for them, we've managed to get the government to put 49% of the money, and 51% of the monies come in from the private sector. So you've now suddenly got the Ministry of Finance as an investor in the economy and in infrastructure. Now that fund has $4 billion of assets under management. It's the biggest success story we have. We've got foreign investors like the Australian Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, the Canadian pension funds. And when the government sits with them, they see themselves as an investor rather than a regulator, and what are the issues faced by them as an investor. And that changes their mindset. So this is the same department which is creating the foreign exchange laws. So, you've then become an enabler for change as far as how the government is operating. Similarly, lawyers sit in all sorts of committees, whether it's SEBI, whether it's here in Delhi. If we can sit on those committees and give impartial views in terms of how do you take the economy forward, I think there's not enough being done by the legal community in guiding the government on how to take the economy forward. Because again, and I have a slightly different view on, on opening up of the economy to foreign law firms, because I think we lack the depth. We are all busy growing our law firms and actually doing the work. So there is no time for that extra that you need to give back to the community. And the effect of that you can see on the fact that enforcement of contracts, or how, how access to justice operates in India. It's a shame. For, again, our keynote address talked about it. If I am a common person, what access to justice do I have? What are the costs to go to court today? If we as lawyers are not able to solve this when we know this is what's holding back the economy. So I don't think that 5 trillion growth number is going to be achieved till this community gives back, and this community needs depth.
Yeah, Pratibha, very well said, and I totally agree with you that you have to really set it free, and set it free in many ways. Before Anand, I come to you, because this will be the last observations. Let me tell you one thing, that on education we are struggling, the legal education, because I had the fortune of going to the best law schools from Jindal to national law schools for giving lectures on disruptions. How do you disrupt the model? And I realized that there is a big disconnect. So we have to start telling the law schools that you need to inform them that what is the road ahead, what is the struggle ahead now. Because legal profession, whether you are incorporated in-house or in courts, basically you have to disrupt all the time. You talk to Jetmalani, you talk to anybody for that matter, they will say neither the degree matters nor your number of years matter, you have to learn on a daily basis. So that's the presumption you have to come with. So Anand, you had such a journey in this firm and you disrupted that. Now you are on another disruption. And I can relate to it a little bit because I was very happy being an environmental lawyer. 2008, I went all out for the mainstream firm. I'm in that journey. What keeps you motivated in such hostile conditions, whatever hostile conditions being talked about? And how do you see your disruptive journey going and being a role model for us?
So part of disruption is just having fun doing what you're doing. Yeah. And that is very important. So it's not play by the rules of what others determine for you. It is play by the rules that you determine for yourself. And you have fun doing it. But specifically, I'd like to sort of speak a little bit about, since that was the topic of the discussion, is how do you plug into building the economy to a $5 trillion economy? And so therefore, it's not just legal services, not just enforceability of contracts, but just a whole host of other things. But if I were to look at it from an entrepreneurial viewpoint, and maybe that's where some of the answers will come, because the issue is not only enforcement of contracts. The issue is not only the speed of justice. If you were to look at it as an entrepreneur, what is it that you want to say? You have a stack of cash, or you have access to cash, so you don't have it in your pocket, but you have the ability to bring it to yourself from somewhere. What you need is to be operating in a predictable environment. So there has to be certainty. You have to be able to predict that, all right, in 5 years I could possibly be here, and 10 years I could possibly be here. And predictability goes to the very heart of entrepreneurship. Now, what do we have in our country is that predictability, by and large, has gone away. So it doesn't help if, and there might be a viewpoint that we have a terrific set of judges and they're doing a great job, but the fact that you regularly interrupt lawmaking through judicial lawmaking is very, very disruptive. Yeah. It kills businesses. One of the huge contributors in my mind to the destruction of the Indian economy is the cancellation of the telecom licenses that the Supreme Court did. There were other things that it could have done, but there are a series of things like that where courts carve out new law and they end up bringing lack of predictability. Now, enforcement of contract is, again, it goes to actually predictability. The expectation is once I have a contract signed, then this is how my relationship will progress. So you have two issues over there. I've had people tell me on the other side of a negotiation that you're negotiating too hard. I'll sign a blank page. We'll see when you come for enforcement. Now, that simply cannot be the attitude, which means there is a problem with enforcement. I mean, how can you have the courage? It means you do have the courage to say, get me to sign a blank piece of paper. These are issues that hassle partly in terms of what comes in the way. The other thing, and it's very simple, so we're not talking big business, let's talk about small man. So if I'm one of those guys who lives in a slightly rural or semi-rural, the Lal Dora land, say in Delhi. So I've had an education, I've had a school education, I've probably even gone to college, but I'm largely unemployable. So what is it that I can do? I have 2-3 options in mind. So I can go and become a petrol pump attendant, or become an office boy in a law firm, or some sort of thing like that. I could actually become an entrepreneur, which is take some money, invest it, and then grow a business from there. The third, again entrepreneurial, is a life of crime. It is entrepreneurial. The thing is, where do you want to drive your population to? Do you want somebody to go to the low end of what is possible from an employment perspective, and if he has to go to an entrepreneurial business element, because you don't want him to go and get into the other form of entrepreneurship, is how do you make it easy for somebody to set up any small little business? Because if I've got 50,000 rupees and want to set up a small, as Mr. Modi says, a pakoda shop, I require 5 to 6 licenses. I don't even know what licenses. I
Yep.
mean, even lawyers, if you generally ask somebody what sort of licenses, nobody will, unless you go and look at books, you do not know what licenses are. How are you helping the guy even set up a pakoda shop?
Okay, I'll disrupt
I want
you
to come
here.
in with,
Anton, I'm giving you the last word actually because I'm constantly being reminded we are already overshoot this time. Yes. Just imagine, just imagine. So, Tarun, I'm giving you the last word. Tell me, when will you do a show when you will also ask that how many permissions are required for a pakoda shop?
Recently,
And how will the
I had
legal
the
education will
opportunity-
disrupt its own model?
Recently, I had the opportunity to attend a restaurants industry conclave, and there is a popular coffee chain. The CEO of that coffee chain tells me that I need about 32 licenses to set up one store. Okay, then he says that I have to set up the same store somewhere else. That again I have to apply for a fresh license, and it takes 1 year to set up the next store because those 32 licenses don't come through.
So,
whereas he says I have a standard SOP, every restaurant has the same facility, everything down to the sauce is actually standardized. So for them to give a license is not difficult, but still I have to go through those 32 licenses.
So here is the contradiction. Actually, all this will be streamlined. Our jobs will be affected actually. So I am not very keen about that. But that's perfectly
No,
all
no,
right.
no,
You still know perfectly on a lighter way. Perfectly streamlined.
But Anand made two fair points which I would like to elaborate upon. I had the opportunity to interview the vice chairman of Toyota Motors India. And he says that Japan has stopped allotting India models, which is the Toyota India models. I asked him why. He says suddenly the government one day after GST came in increased the taxes on hybrid vehicles by about 12%. The cost of the vehicle, which they call as Camry, went up by 7 lakhs. The sales dropped by 70%. They had invested 400 crores in the India venture. Every Toyota showroom in the country had one specific engineer trained only to service that.
And it's gone
They all
waste.
went jobless
It's
because
gone
the
waste.
sales went down. So he said, he got
Unpredictability.
fired by the Japanese, his boss, saying that I have appointed you as vice chairman here. Can't you tell me what your policy is? They don't understand the government one fine day just changes its policy on taxation.
So that is unpredictability is the problem. Pratibha, you want to say something and
So
then we are
I'll
wrapping
just
up.
quickly say, we all know this problem. We discuss it on every panel that we get on, especially for $5 trillion economy. As lawyers, what is the solution that we are providing? Mr. Bhasin is here. I think we need to create a committee of all law firms, dedicate a person to get into a committee and start talking and then giving representations to the government, not by the industry, because there are self-interested motives there that get mixed up, Indian versus foreign, etc.
Pratibha, also to the judiciary. I want to, if you bear me out, one small example. I was interacting with a committee of dealers who run these car showrooms. This guy tells me that my company is NP. I asked him what happened. He said, I set up 6 showrooms. I took loan and set up 6 showrooms in Delhi to sell cars, high-end cars. Suddenly the Supreme Court made a decision out of no logic, which the auto industry still doesn't understand, that cars over 2000 cc can't sell in Delhi. His showroom was only selling cars high-end which are all about 2000 cc. All showrooms shut down. His project became NPA. He's running a second-hand car showroom now in Okhla. He says, I can never get up again. 800 people went unemployed because of that. And when we approached Siam, they said that the auto company MDs, because many of these auto company MDs are expats, the guys down the line are Indians. They say we still can't understand on what basis that decision was made.
Okay, Pratibha, let Pratibha complete her
So
point.
Tarun, actually even the Supreme Court, why is Supreme Court doing all these things? Why 2G? When I criticized 2G, the answer was, but don't you know all these guys were corrupt and how these licenses were taken? Problem is law enforcement. So again, going back to how do lawyers contribute towards solving this problem, the Supreme Court will stop doing this because they think they're doing it in public interest because law enforcement is not happening. So if we can find a solution to law enforcement.
We'll give a proposal to you, most of all the law firms. Wonderful panel. I know it got very engaging, so we overshot the time. Thanks a lot for this opportunity, Anuragji. The first panel, I thank everybody, all my panelists for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.